Earl caught Paul's eye and motioned that he should follow in his car. Earl closed his eyes and held his wife's hand. It was warm, thank God, but she was so still. Please, God, don't take her from me just yet, he prayed silently. Welcome back, my friends. I hope you are doing well. If you've enjoyed the story so far and haven't subscribed yet, please do so now. I have a lot more to bring to you, and I need the encouragement. Also, comment where you are listening from. Share the stories with your friends and smash that like button to help me grow this channel. Now let's get back to the story. A full police escort led the way to the nearest hospital. When they arrived at Kings County Hospital, Earl stepped away to let the paramedics do their jobs. He was about to follow them into the trauma room when the chief tapped him on the arm. I know your mind is on your wife now, but there are some questions that are going to need answers. Like, how the hell did you pull that off? Paul can't stop bragging about what you just done. The SWAT team is hailing you their hero, and Dobbs is furious. So go ahead and see to your wife, and then prepare yourself for a Q&A session. The chief shook his hand once more, and then let him go. The paramedics who had just delivered his wife to the trauma team in the emergency room walked toward him. They smiled at him and held their thumbs up. Congratulations, man. She's going to be okay. She just regained consciousness. I told them that you'd be in shortly, one of them said. Thank you for all you've done for her, Earl said and pushed through the double doors. There were people everywhere doing God knew what to Emma. One nurse was drawing blood, while a doctor was listening to her lungs. She was almost naked, and the doctor asked for assistance to roll her over to check for wounds. There were none. All of the obvious damage seemed to be on her upper body, face, and neck. There were dark bruises on her wrists and ankles, too. Then the doctor called for a rape kit. Detective Solano stood back when the doctor examined her and took samples. He caught a glimpse of her legs and inner thighs. She was badly bruised, and she stoically withstood the hospital staff's ministrations. Then she closed her eyes as they took pictures. Once they were all done, they helped her get into a hospital gown and left her alone with him. He approached her slowly. Hello, Professor, he said. Hi. Her voice was weak. You saved me again, thank you. A lone tear slid down the side of her face. I promised Sam that I would. They gave me something to help me sleep. I can't keep my eyes open much longer. I just wanted to tell you that I love you and that you are my hero. Emma's eyes fluttered closed and didn't open again. Earl followed the gurney as the attendant pushed it into the elevator. Emma was being transferred to a private room. He stayed with her for another hour, and when she hadn't reawakened, he sought out the doctor to confer with him. The doctor explained that Emma will need a lot of rest, and he assured Earl that she would make a full recovery. Her injuries were all superficial, except for the sexual assault. Earl put up a hand as if to ward off the whole thing. It was too awful to bear at this time. The doctor further explained that the exam included a pregnancy test and would know the result soon. Earl left after that, whispering to Emma that he would be back later. He told the nurse at the nurse's station that he would return. She started to tell him that visiting hours were over, but the look Earl gave her shut her up. Paul was waiting for him in the lobby. They clasped hands. How is she? She will make a full recovery. I need to tell Sam that her mother is safe, and then I'll be back to spend the night with her. When she is stable, I intend to have her transferred to a hospital closer to home. The commute would be too much for the family. I need to get my car. I drove us, and I'll drive you back, Paul replied. There were reporters and cameras everywhere outside the hospital when the partners stepped out. They were quickly surrounded with reporters pointing microphones in their faces. Earl had no choice but to give them a statement. Paul stood silently beside him, giving him support. He told the public that his wife was safe and would make a full recovery. He also told them that if they wanted more information, that they would have to contact the detectives on the case. Earl also thanked the men and women of the 83rd Precinct for a job well done. As they pulled from the lot, the ambulance containing a fatally shot Raphael came in. The paramedics were working furiously doing CPR as they hurried him into the trauma room, just recently used by the team who worked on his victim. It was evident that their patient wouldn't live more than a few hours, but it was their job to do all that was necessary. The reporters scrambled to get a view. Raphael appeared unharmed except for an innocuous-looking wound on the side of his head. The bullet lodged in the part of his brain that controlled breathing. He couldn't breathe on his own and was on complete life support. Paul drove the entire way through the borough of Queens. He stayed with Earl when he told Sam about her mother, and then he drove Earl home. Paul went in with him, pushing the reporters out of the way. When they were inside, Paul pulled a small flask out of his pocket. The chief had given it to him with instructions that he had at least a few sips. He went to get a glass and poured. His partner was in shock, and he needed to get some rest. He knew Earl never drank anything stronger than wine, but right now, Paul insisted. Earl drank obediently and then allowed Paul to escort him upstairs to bed. Earl didn't argue. His body had started to shake the moment they entered the house. Maybe sleep wasn't such a bad idea. The day had taken on a surreal feel to it, and the sooner it was over with, the better. He was asleep in minutes. His brain had shut down. Paul checked the house and set the alarm, and then let himself out. He drove home to his wife and children. Earl awoke 3 hours later, appalled that he had slept. He'd wanted to spend the night with Emma. He quickly got out of bed and grabbed his head. Whiskey always gave him a headache. He should have refused. It was just after 4 in the morning. After showering, Earl packed a bag of clothes for Emma. He knew that once she was feeling better, she'd want her own clothes. He reset the alarms and drove to the hospital. The part of Brooklyn he drove through had all the charm of gum stuck to your shoe. The air was hot and sticky. The stench of garbage in the streets overwhelmed and was depressive. The sky glowed a perfect pink as the night gave way to dawn, but Earl couldn't appreciate it. At this time in the morning, the streets were deserted and quiet. Earl entered the hospital and headed for the elevator bank. When he stepped off, he was met by security who questioned him. The guard wanted to see identification, and once Earl flashed him his badge, he led the way to the nurse's station. Earl entered the room to find Emma sitting up propped up against some pillows. She turned toward him and smiled. It seemed incredible that the swelling on her face had gone down in just a few hours. He sat gingerly on the bed and took her hand. "You look beautiful," he murmured. "You lie like a rug," but she smiled back. "You really are. It radiates from within. How are you feeling?" Emma shrugged. "I feel better now that I was able to take a shower." Once they had gotten all their results, the doctor okayed it. "Now all I need are my own clothes and all will be right with the universe again." Earl lifted the bag off the floor. "I thought you might want them. I'm glad you're feeling better." He helped her change and kissed her tenderly on the cheek. "There's something I have to tell you. I wanted to tell you myself before the doctor got to you. I know that you were in the room when they examined me and took samples and pictures. I know that I'd been through an awful lot. The doctor didn't believe me when I told him I wasn't raped. Raphael tried, but I fought him. There is something wrong with him in that department. He really didn't. Emma, it is common for rape victims to block it out and deny it happened. What's important is that you get better." "No," Emma shook her head. "Please listen to me. Raphael called me every foul name in the English language and some in Spanish, but he didn't and couldn't rape me. He beat me more because he couldn't. He thought he could be cruel by sending you that woman's underwear to make you think he'd done it. He beat me every time he tried and failed." "Are you sure?" Earl hoped against hope that she was. "Positive. Besides, I fought him all the more because I didn't want him to hurt our baby. The day he took me, I just returned from seeing Doreen. I went to her clinic for the test, and I made her promise not to tell you. I know the bruising on my body tell a different story, but Raphael was everything but a rapist." Earl hugged her gently. "That's wonderful, baby. Are you okay? I mean, are you still pregnant?" he asked with deep concern. Emma nodded. "The doctor told me that I was pregnant and wanted me to talk it over with you before I made any decisions. He said that he could perform the procedure today." "All right then. When he comes to talk with us, we'll set him straight. I was so worried about you, love. Sam and Walter helped us find you," he told her. "Oh God, Sam. Earl, I am so proud of her. She got away and went to get help. She is the bravest girl in the world. I can't wait to tell her that. Did you get a chance to tell her how brave she was?" Earl smiled at her. "I went to see her just before we confirmed where you were being kept. I told her how brave she was and that she was a hero." "She is," Emma agreed. "I just can't get the look of pure terror on her face when he tried to grab her. That look will stay with me for a long time. It's over now, love. You're safe, and she's safe. Now why don't you lay back and get some rest? I'll be right here. You won't be alone." "Detective, You can't possibly be thinking of staying with me in that chair. It looks so uncomfortable. It is dawn already, and I bet you haven't gotten any rest at all. Earl looked at his wife and got scared for a moment. He hoped she wasn't suggesting that he go home. There was no way on God's green earth that he was going to leave her alone. Professor, I will be fine. You just lay back and close your eyes, he replied. Earl stood up and pulled the chair as close to the bed as he could and made himself comfortable. Earl jerked awake when someone entered the room a few hours later. It was a nurse. She smiled at him and took Emma's temperature. Then she asked if Emma wanted help to the bathroom. Once Emma was washed and had changed into her own clothes, the doctor came to see them. Detective Solano, last night we got all the results back. Your wife is healthy but slightly dehydrated, but we're taking care of that with the intravenous drip, as you can see. The other thing I wanted to discuss with you is that the pregnancy test we performed came back positive. Because of the swelling along her thighs, I thought I'd give it a few days before we did a more comprehensive exam for signs of more damage. Doctor, we knew about the pregnancy before the kidnapping. My wife was brutalized, and our main concern is whether the pregnancy was affected in any way, Earl told him. The look of relief on the doctor's face was comical. Oh, good. Congratulations, then. I don't think the pregnancy was affected, but I recommend you see your own doctor soon. Now, Mrs. Solano, you should feel sore for a few more days and the bruises will fade eventually. We'll keep you another day or two for observation, and then you can go home. He shook hands with Earl and left the room. I had thought that you'd be confined for longer than a few days. I was going to have you transferred to a hospital closer to home. I'm glad we won't have to do that, Earl told her. Me too. I wanted to watch TV last night, but I was on almost every channel. I turned it off. I suppose there is going to be a lot of reporters now. I saw my face in the mirror, and I look hideous. I don't want anyone to see me like this, Emma said sadly with tears streaking down her face. We don't have to do anything. I think we can keep your discharge a secret. The press has been hanging out at our house too, and if I can't get them to clear out, we can cover your face. Okay? Okay, I'm sorry to be such a baby. I think the medicine they gave me is making me weepy, she said in her defense. There was a knock on the door and Paul entered. The smile on his face was pure joy. Wow, you look a lot better than you did last night. How are you feeling? I'm great. A little sore, but I'm fine. I know you both were instrumental in ending my ordeal. I want to thank you. You guys are my heroes once again. Emma held out her hand to him. Paul took her hand and gave it a little squeeze. So how much longer do you have to stay here? The doctor just told us that I could go home in a couple of days, Emma said. Then her face got serious. I was telling your partner that I didn't want to deal with the press. I saw it all on TV last night, and I want no part of it. Don't worry about it. We'll figure something out. I had to come in the back way myself. I stopped by the station on my way here, and Dobbs was holding court, along with the team from the 83rd, he told Earl. I slipped away but told the chief where I was going. Earl watched his partner, and he saw the curiosity eating at him. He'd been trying to avoid even thinking about what happened on that roof on President Street. If he had to talk about it, he wanted it to be someone he trusted. Okay, if you want to talk about last night, we'll talk about it once, and then I don't ever want to discuss it again, he told Paul. Emma looked from one man to the next. What happened last night? Why did Earl look so uneasy? Paul nodded and winked at Emma. Your husband pulled off the most incredible thing I have ever seen in my life. Raphael had you at knife point, and from the roof of the building across the street, the SWAT team were stationed. They were waiting for the perfect shot. No one on the team was comfortable with the shot that was available. Then your husband asked to see the rifle the SWAT team marksman was holding. Once he had the rifle, he asked me to get into the building. He told me that he would count to 5 and to be ready to get you away from Raphael. I know that from where I was positioned, that the view from the rooftop only showed just the top of Raphael's head, just above his ear, inches from your head, Paul gushed. What was so remarkable about it? Emma asked. From what Paul described, Earl shot Raphael because he had a clear view of his head. Emma, the only view he had was that area he shot at. Raphael had been shouting at the men who had burst into the room. He'd grabbed you and was using you as a shield. He had moved away from the men, but the view from the rooftop was blocked with all that scrap metal. Earl's only view of the man was just the few inches above his ear. Emma tried to visualize what Paul explained, and it did sound incredible. She looked at Earl, who wore a strange expression on his face. Way to go, hotshot. Now you've gone and proved to everybody that you are Superman. She said it lightly, but Earl's face hardened. It was no big deal. I was a marksman in the Royal Guard in England. I didn't want to do it anymore, because it was a skill that I had grown to dislike. Someone always dies. Paul looked incredulous. Are you going to tell me that Raphael didn't deserve to die? His life is still a life, Earl replied quietly. Okay, what's wrong? Why don't you feel justified about it? Emma asked. I stopped doing it because I didn't like taking lives. My skill was only used when my superiors determined that someone deserved to die. That was my specialty. Okay, I understand. However, in the event that all hell breaks loose, I want you watching my back, said Paul. Earl nodded. He agreed that Raphael had gone beyond the point of no return. He'd already killed that woman and threatened Emma's life, but he still didn't have to be okay with it. Life was precious no matter who it belonged to. The members of the SWAT team had cheered when he shot Raphael, but all he could think of was he had taken another life. They spoke about the body found in the building, and it was confirmed that it was Maribel Colon, his childhood tormentor. It was also determined that Raphael had suffered a mental breakdown. A report from the prison psychologist said that he needed further therapy sessions and that the death of his son had pushed him over the edge. Emma was discharged 2 days later. With the help of some of the staff, Emma was able to leave the hospital incognito. Once they reached their street, they slowed down to avoid the crowd that gathered. He'd gotten the police to form a barrier to the front door. Emma leaned against the door and pulled the baseball cap off her head and slid the dark glasses off her face. Sam came out of the kitchen and rushed to her mother. "Mommy, you're home," she squealed. Emma slid down to the floor to hug her daughter. "Oh, baby, it's so good to see you. Honey, I want to thank you for being so brave. You and Daddy Earl and Paul are my heroes. Thank you." "Mommy, Daddy Earl is the real hero. He promised me that he would rescue you, and he did," Sam said matter-of-factly. "Oh, everyone is here. Thank you all for your prayers and concern. I truly appreciate it," Emma said. Earl came to rescue her. He knew that she couldn't stand all the attentions. He took her hand and pulled her close. Sam broke away and ran back to the kitchen. She told her mother that she was helping with the party. "Detective, did you tell anyone about our little bundle?" she whispered. "Not yet. I wanted to wait for you to be well. And I've silenced Doreen too," Earl assured her. "Then why are all these people here?" "It was too soon to be socializing. These are our friends and family who came to wish you well. Be nice. Half hour and then you can plead fatigue and go upstairs. I promise." Kay, she hoped she'd be able to keep a smile on her face. True to his word, 30 minutes later, and with the help of her sister-in-law, they emptied the house. Emma stood by the door, hugging and kissing their family and friends. When everyone was gone, and Doreen and Jared were the only ones left, Emma slid down to the floor. She was so tired. Her legs and thighs hurt. Earl rushed to her and scooped her up into his arms. He carried her up to bed. Doreen brought up some tea and Jared stood by the door. "You know everyone should have waited a couple of days before descending down on you guys like this." "It's okay, Jared. This way I won't have to worry about them for a few days." "I'm sorry I wasn't too friendly," apologized Emma. "Nonsense, you've just come from the hospital and you're still recovering," he pointed out. Earl waited for her to start drinking the tea before he led his sister and Jared down. He thanked them at the door and engaged the alarm. When he rejoined Emma, she was on the phone talking to Sam. Then she was talking with Matt. He and his parents weren't in the welcoming committee. Lindora and her husband Kevin stopped by, but they didn't linger. "Earl, Sam says to tell you that she loves you." He nodded and joined her on the bed. He sat beside her and took her hand. "And now it's time for you to rest. I have a call to make, and then we'll both sleep." She nodded and watched him leave. She knew that he was just as tired, if not more than she was. He'd stayed with her the entire 4 days she was there. She was home and safe. That's what she kept telling herself for the past couple of hours. Raphael had done his worst and she had triumphed. She was alive and he was gone. Her husband had done the impossible to save her, and he didn't want to talk about it. From what Paul explained, Earl had done something extraordinary and he was uncomfortable talking about it. There was still so much she didn't know about this man she married. One of these days, she was going to sit him down and learn all his secrets. Earl returned and quickly undressed. He joined her and pulled her close. At first she wanted to lean into him, as was her custom, but all of the sudden she couldn't. She lay in the darkened room and held her body rigid. "Relax, love. You're home safe with me." "Could we leave the lamp on?" Emma asked. She was terrified of the dark. Earl had pulled all the shades down and drawn all the curtains. He reached over to click the lamp on and pulled her close once again. "I won't let anything happen to you. Go to sleep." Morning came and Emma tried to stretch. The pain in her legs was unbearable. She lay there trying to will it to go away. When tears filled her eyes, she was helpless to stop them. Her whole body hurt now. The doctor had given her something for the pain, but that was before they knew she was pregnant. "Are you in pain?" Earl asked. "Yes, I didn't think it would be this bad." "How about a soak in the tub?" Earl said as he got up to go draw her a bath. Emma slid into the tub and sighed. The water was hot and it felt good, allowing her to relax her body. Gradually, the pain in her legs eased. Emma wasn't allowed to do anything for the rest of the day. She was bored, and when Doreen called, she asked her to come over. Doreen looked at her as if trying to decide if she should say something. Then she nodded to herself. "Emma, Jared wanted me to ask you about therapy. He said that more than ever, you need someone to talk with." "I know, last night I found that I couldn't stand the dark. Once I'm feeling better, I'll set up appointments." When Doreen left, Earl let her sit in the living room. Suddenly, there was a reporter knocking on the window, startling Emma. Earl quickly drew the shades and took Emma upstairs. They both knew that sooner or later, they'd have to face the press, but now it was too soon. Emma knew that she needed to deal with the growing fact that she was afraid of her husband's touch. She couldn't understand why. Raphael hadn't succeeded in doing anything to her, except try to beat her into submission. His psychosis was too strong for him to do anything but threaten what he'd do to her. Emma got up to shower and wash her hair. While drying her hair, she realized that Sam's birthday was coming up. She smiled to herself. She wanted to throw her a barbecue party like Earl's family had done. She thought Sam would like that. She smiled again. "What are you smiling about?" Earl asked her. He had been watching that faraway look in her eyes. "I was thinking about throwing Sam a birthday barbecue and maybe tell everyone about the baby. What do you think?" "That's a wonderful idea, and Samantha will be thrilled. Do you want to get a clown or anything of that sort?" "I hadn't thought that far. She's such an easy child to please. I don't think we need to get that extravagant. I think lots of games and all of her friends will be enough. I'm glad her birthday is still weeks away. I spoke with Matt, and he suggested that his family might be in danger around us. That's why he and his parents weren't here to welcome me home. I'm hoping all the buzz will have blown over by the time her birthday comes." Earl stiffened. He had been dealing with doubts of his own concerning the circumstances that brought about Emma's kidnapping. Twice now, his line of work brought horrible repercussions to the woman he loved. He couldn't even say anything contrary to Matt's feelings. He had every right to feel the way he did. He just hoped that he wouldn't keep mother and daughter apart. "Even if some of her friends don't make it to the party, we have enough family to fill in. I think it will be all right," he answered. Emma gave her hair one last brush and stood up. She came to stand in front of her husband. "Are you feeling guilty, Earl? You are, aren't you? You're thinking that you are responsible for everything, and that's not right." Emma took his hands in hers. "Honey, you can't carry the whole world on your shoulders. Walter used me only because his associates told him I saw everything. He was trying to protect himself, not get back at you. And Raphael was just plain crazy. He sounded like he had multiple personalities. Most of the time, he called me Maribel. Every time he called me by that name, he'd get meaner. He told me that he and his son were going to be drug lords," she told him. Earl looked relieved, and he even smiled up at her. And then his face shut down again. He was using his British face. When he spoke again, his speech was probably going to be stilted. She was tempted to hit him. She sat down on the bed beside him and waited for him to say something. "Right then, about Sam's birthday party, how many invitations do you want to send out?" Emma continued to stare at him. "Sooner or later, we are going to discuss this, Earl." "About the party, Emma?" he asked. He knew he was being difficult, but he couldn't help it. He didn't want to think about how right Emma was. She was. He just didn't know how not to feel responsible. Indirectly, he was at fault. These men used his wife to get him to do things. Walter used her to get his cylinders back, and Raphael, may have been mental, used him to go on a merry chase. Earl's features didn't give away anything he was thinking or feeling. He was very good at doing that. You can change the subject all you want. You know I'm right, Emma said. I want to run the idea by Sam first, and then we can plan. She reached over to tug on a dread. Earl wasn't expecting that and jerked away. So she reached over again to pull off the scrunchie he had around his hair. She got his attention then. Drop it, Emma. Earl was curt. Drop what? I like seeing your hair loose, remember? Besides, it has been a long time since I've seen it like this. She ran her fingers through his hair. Don't start something you don't want me to finish, he warned her. Oh, like what? She asked playfully. She smiled at him. Her face was less swollen, and her lower jaw was black and blue. The cuts on her lips had healed, leaving faint scars, but her smile was radiant. Her eyes were both bloodshot, yet they still shone. She was beautiful. Earl pulled her close and pressed soft kisses along her neck. He held her tightly to him. It has been a long time since I've held you like this. Would you like for me to continue? Emma responded by drawing closer to him. Suddenly she couldn't breathe. Her heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't happening. She opened her eyes and shut them again. Hands cruelly squeezed her, and she pushed as hard as she could against Raphael. No! She screamed. Earl let her go and searched her face. Emma, love, it's me, not Raphael. She didn't hear him. She was reliving the ordeal all over again. She looked at him with such fear. He reached out to soothe her, but she scrambled off the bed and pushed her body against the wall far from him. He tried speaking to her in soft tones, but she bolted out of the room and down the stairs. Emma stopped at the bottom of the stairs, not sure how she got there. She knew she was scared. She made her way to the living room and turned on the lamp by the single chair and sat down. She didn't know why she was so afraid, but she was out of her mind with fear. Earl appeared before her suddenly. He was kneeling in front of her, looking worried. Emma, love, are you all right? No, I'm afraid, and I think I blanked out or something. Did I fall asleep? I think I had a nightmare. No. We were having a moment, and then you started screaming. I think you were reliving your experience with Raphael. You ran from me and came down here. Earl didn't think to sugarcoat it. It happened, and it needed to be addressed. Oh God, Earl, I'm sorry. She couldn't look at him, and she felt dirty. Her stomach roiled, and she felt sick, and it was urgent. She stood up and ran to the half-bath where she was violently sick. Afterward, feeling too weak to stand, she stayed on her knees. Earl took pity on her and helped her up. He continued to hold on to her while she rinsed her mouth and washed her face. Are you better now? Would you like some tea? He offered. No, I don't feel better and I don't want tea. I want my life back. I want peace. And I don't want to feel afraid anymore. Can you do that for me? She cried. Well, that's it for now. Please take the time to comment how the story is making you feel right now. For those of you who are new to the channel, please subscribe and click on the notification bell. I want to hear from all of you. Stay tuned for what comes next.